Anyway, we all saw Pacific Rim.
That was a little abrupt. I mean, I said hurry up. I didn't mean just chop your dick off and throw it at the audience.
Well, it's been done. You can't unthrow a dick, Clancy.
He's like, no, I don't hurt anyone.
So anyway, we saw Pacific Rim, the movie by Guillermo del Toro, about giant robots punching sea creatures.
And we're pleasantly surprised.
They're aliens.
Well,
we were. We left happy. I went with Isaac. Adam went with his sister.
I wasn't happy.
You were happy.
I'm never happy.
Well, you weren't happy. You were satisfied. You were sated.
Not
satisfied. Satisfied.
It wasn't terrible.
This is after Subway.
It was somewhat. It was a somewhat.
The biggest problem, Isaac, and we talked a little bit about this, is that it could have been so much more fun.
Yeah, it could have been a lot more fun than it was.
Yeah.
This had some very...
if Edgar Wright directed this, it would have been a way better movie.
Well, okay, let's start. To be fair, this did a lot of stuff that Guillermo del Toro, someone who wasn't him, couldn't have done. Like, if this had been James Gunn, maybe. If this had been Zack Snyder, no. Like, this had a lot of stuff going for it. It had a great world built into it.
Yeah.
Hinted at. Kind of fleshed out.
I would have liked them to explore it a little more.
Yeah. See, but that I guess I agree with Clancy on that. That was nice. It's one of those movies where it's a big action movie and you actually feel like the worlds are lived in. Like, you know, like the crowds are actually a part of it.
That's...
The damage is, unlike Man of Steel, the damage that happens is actually addressed and has repercussions.
You know how they did that? I thought about this. They had three shots of people evacuating, and then they had a shot with Charlie Day in a bomb shelter. Like, they had a protocol for when this was happening.
Yeah.
So when the buildings get destroyed and you are hinted at in the storyline that the people had adequate time to escape, and that was like almost routine for them on how to get away from this. Like, it made it a lot more like you could swallow it. Like, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, so to get back on track,
why anyone lived in a world that had more than 5 stories. Like, they're like, why? Kaijus have been attacking this planet for like 5 years.
brief synopsis before we get more into the review. Yeah. These monsters come from a portal under the ocean in the Pacific called the Kaijus that start attacking cities. So, of course, the Earth responds by building giant robots called Jaegers.
Which is dumb. I'm sorry. I know you love Germans, but that is like the dumbest thing.
Well, it's incorrect, because that's not how you spell hunter in German.
What is it?
It's J. I guess maybe they took the umlaut off, not confuse people. I think it's J with A with an umlaut, G-E-R. There's no...
Like Jägermeister?
They spelled it like J-A-E-G-E-R or something.
Wait, does
Jägermeister means the Master Hunter.
Master Hunter,
Master.
Yeah.
I was like, Manhunter?
No.
Yes.
No, that's why there's a stag on it.
Master Hunter.
That's what you hunt when you're in Germany. Anyway, and so they create the Jaegers to battle the Kaijus to save humanity. But then, after a brief, opening montage, it's like the Jaegers are becoming obsolete. And
let's go across the room. Let's just go, that's the main premise. Like, the Jaegers are obsolete. They're facing newer and bigger foes than ever before. Humanity's at a rift. So, a Pacific Rim.
And they're saying, the Jaegers aren't going to do anything anymore. We got to find alternatives.
Yeah.
So let's.
They're like, we're going to build this wall. We don't need your Jaegers. But the best thing about the wall was as soon as a monster attacked it, they just ran through it like butter. It didn't even work at all. But then the government was still we're not going to waste money on your Jaegers.
Go down the line. I'll go last because I'll be defending it.
Okay.
Good. I mean, we all had this discussion kind of previously.
Okay. Well, my thoughts on the movie as a whole.
Start with a grade.
I'd probably give it a C+.
Really? Okay.
Maybe a B.
You would have had
B-
than I did.
Man, C+, maybe a B-. It was the action scenes were cool. I mean, obviously the set decoration and stuff was great because that's what Guillermo del Toro is good at. Mm-hmm. But I felt like the characters were incredibly underdeveloped, and I fucking hated the main character. The main character, he's an Australian actor who's playing an American, and he doesn't have a good American accent, and he talks kind of slow and sounds kind of dumb. He's like, the Kaijus attacked, and we're the Jaegers, and we're gonna get the Kaijus. And he just walked around holding his dick the whole movie, I'm biggest badass in the world.
When you actually noticed that, I noticed that too. You mentioned that. I was like, I noticed it. That's so irritating.
And it felt to me like he's the big douchey asshole jock, And it felt to me, I've told this to a lot of people, it felt to me like they made Karate Kid, but made Johnny Lawrence the main character instead of Daniel-san.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, I don't give a shit about that guy. I can't identify with him. I didn't get laid in high school. What?
I have a theory that I'd explain this, is I think he got cast because he obviously has ties to... what's his bucket?
Ron Perlman
From
Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah,
Oh, is he
because
in that?
in Sons of Anarchy, he is the same character.
Yeah.
But he has a purpose to that, and they actually utilize, like, he pays for that hubris all the time in that show.
Yeah. But anyway, let me continue.
So they just kind of dropped that character right.
Okay, and then they had Rinko Kikuchi in this movie, who's probably the best actor that's in the movie, but because they made her speak English, she came across as mildly retarded. You know, like when she first showed up, they were speaking Japanese to her, and she spoke it back, and I was like, oh, thank Christ, they're not going to make her speak English.
They make the main character understand Japanese too, in these
for
shows.
no reason.
Yeah.
No reason.
And they're like, okay, God, thank you. They're it's just assumed that they've globalized enough at this point, and she's not going to have to speak English. But then, like, a scene later, she started speaking English, and it's obvious that she has no idea what she's saying.
It also seems like after every time she talked, they would just be like, "Oh, she sounds so cute." That was fine because it's just
and
like
she was
slow,
just
weird...
immediately enamored with dick grabbing douchebag. She was just like, "Oh, I'm in love with him. I'm gonna watch him take his abs off." You know, she was just like peeking at him through holes and like, ooh, just immediately.
Yeah.
There was no like courtship. There was no like.
or even
not
a
trust-
reason for her
Yeah.
to like him.
It would have been much better if she didn't like him at the beginning.
And the worst part about
yeah.
it is she's the least developed character, and she's probably the most interesting one because she actually like lost her family to the kaijus as like a little girl, and MC Driss like saves her and stuff. And so she has like a personal stake in this shit. I mean, the other guy lost his fucking brother, but who gives a shit about a brother? Right?
Well, that was the thing that was weird about the main arc and the main characters is that we had no reason to like the guy because he's like, we go into the story him already being the guy that controls a robot with his brother, and we're like, we have no reason to understand why he's qualified to do that or see his struggle to do that. Then when his brother's taken, he just disappears for 5 years.
He's like, you're gonna go build the wall and grab my dick
And
for
then
him.
he comes back, and there's still everyone. It's just one of those movies where everyone says he's the best, so we are, as an audience, supposed to be like, "Oh, I guess he's the best," as opposed to actually showing it.
Yeah, and okay, some other observations. MC Driss as what was it? Stacker Pentecost was his name. He actually is a good enough actor that he was able to get through most of the retarded dialogue and like acquit himself admirably. Right. This is probably the best role he's been given in an American movie thus far. I'm gonna say, at least the best one I've seen him in, other than his TV work on The Wire and whatnot. But like,
he had
he becomes the most interesting character just because he's the best actor.
Well, he had the most. This is like level hard. Like if this was a fast pitch, he'd be like, you get the curve fastball, and he's just like, whoosh, out of the park because he had the worst dialogue to say. Like if you were to read those script lines, like it was like the tired trope.
But he like pulled it off. Yeah,
with aplomb. It's like amazing. He was really really good.
Another thing that pissed me off, it's like they introduce all these other Jaegers from different countries and then just immediately kill them before they get to do anything cool.
In weird ways.
Yeah.
Like the fucking Russian team. Like, the robots make no sense, but like they're always fighting in water and their masks that go over their face don't let them have oxygen. And so they drown to death. They're just like, what the
Me and Clancy were talking about this. We said it was like if you know the old video game Aerial Fighters?
Yeah.
Where you get planes from around the world and some of them are like driven by dolphins and shit.
Yeah.
There's a plane that's like flown by a dog and one flown by a dolphin and stuff. Yeah. It was like you put your quarter into Aerial Fighters. You have all these options, but it only lets you pick two of them. You're like, no, I see there's a dolphin over there. I want to play the dolphin. and it won't let you. So it's like, you get the Americans or the Australians.
That was my main problem with this movie. Is like, they introduced you to a world where every country's had to like deal with these kaijus in their own special way, and they all developed these huge monsters, and they all have like superpowers. Like the fucking the Russian bot was a gigantic shit brick house with a hydraulic arm puncher, and it's like, holy shit! And they said that it's older. The reason it didn't have face mac, they actually got that. I'm glad you mentioned it, because the reason it didn't have like the air thing is because it was developed on land for fighting kaijus, because like they talk about that in the script. It didn't have air breathers because it never went into the water, and only because it was in such a pinch that they had to like like
Yeah.
navigate to that country. So
But-
and it was also really really old. Like it was an old model, so it was like
Yeah.
an old Sherman tank as opposed to like a drone.
Yeah,
Like,
but it also felt to me like,
but they all didn't do shit.
well,
Like,
yeah, it felt to me like every fight in this was like a last ditch, like all in effort, where they're like, ooh, it's this or nothing. You know, we didn't have that build up. We never got to see the robots, except in that opening montage. We never got to see the robots like being successful beforehand.
The most
Yeah.
I was talking to my buddy at work
And,
about
like,
this.
I think it would have been a more interesting movie if we got, instead of that montage that was like Act 1.
The
you know?
most interesting movie that they could have made out of this was 5 years before this one took place.
Yeah.
It was when the kaijus first started showing up, and then the humans had to resort to like gigantic
Yeah,
robots.
and then like the pilots become celebrities and their egos get in the way and stuff, and
And which explains another gigantic plot hole, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's move on to Adam. Adam, what would you rate this movie? We'll go. I'll get back to you.
I might agree with Isaac. It's probably like a B- for me, and mainly just because they couldn't. It could have been so much more fun, and like I already have. I like some of Guillermo's stuff, but like Hellboy 2 just left a really bad taste in my mouth.
see, I liked Hellboy too, and one of the reasons. Sorry to interrupt, but
No good.
one of the reasons it had those character moments, like it had Hellboy and the Aquaman creature. Like singing "Can't Smile Without," like that scene was like really good for like character building and shit. And you didn't get any of that in this movie.
Yeah.
You just got, I'm the best, I'm gonna hold my dick.
And it was so I already had a kind of like a skeptical of it, and then the main character just has he's just not interesting. You have no reason to really like him or understand why he's such a badass. It's hard to understand anyone in this movie. The Australians have that whole emotional scene with the dog in the hallway where they say goodbye to each other, and I looked around and I was like, what the fuck are they saying? I don't understand what they're saying to each other.
As a guy who does bad Australian accents all the time, I got every word of it. It was pretty gut wrenching. Like,
There's like just really when you have a movie like this, I mean, obviously there's gonna be plot holes, but ones that were just really stupid, like especially when it ties, like there was this whole thing about how the main character we don't give a shit about has to have this relationship with the person so they can drift and control these robots.
They can
And, like,
what do they call
they
it?
have to be in sync.
Neural handshake.
Yeah, they have to be in sync and they have to like be compatible, and it's so hard to find that person. So the whole movie is that like him and the chick getting to that point. And then later on, when fucking Idris Elba's gonna take up the throne, he looks at the Australian guy and he's like, "Nah, we're compatible." Like, I know all about you. He's like, "Yeah, you do." And they both
Really?
get in the robot
Yeah.
and they walk off.
You don't
and you're
remember that?
oh no,
Yeah.
I remember it, but I remembered it better than you did. No, not better as in like I retained more information, but I actually enjoyed it because that explained why that was like a checkmate for Idris Elba's character, because he's like, no, the reason I'm the best is because I don't bring anything with me into the zone. Like, I am a neutral character, so I can play with anybody. Like, that
Yeah.
was awesome.
But
to
it
me.
still obliterates the entire point of the like
no,
first and second act
I
of the
get
movie.
I guess it makes sense.
It's just a cheap.
It
It's just a
undercuts-
Deus Ex Machina. They're like, nah, Idris Elba's cool.
Because the whole point is you're supposed to have a bunch of shared memories and
Yeah.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, not shared memories, because that doesn't work. Because there's no reason. We had a theory. Like, I thought halfway through the movie that the Asian girl, the reason she was going to be able to drift so well with that dude is because her dad got killed because of what that kid did.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, no, don't go save that boat. You got to protect that Alaskan ship, like the shipping village, the fishing village. And they're like, no, fuck that. And they go off. I thought the reason that he's going to be able to drift with this girl is going to be really interesting. I thought it was going to be because when they left that place open to get attacked. And
Yeah.
it was-
seemed like when she first met him, it seemed like she really knew him, and I was like, oh, okay, she has
Something.
a backstory with him, because there was hints at that, but then it was like, oh no, she just
No,
got
they
the
did
hot
this gay.
storm.
They did this gay thing with like, oh, they both experienced loss. Like she lost her family and he lost his brother, so that's why they can drift so well.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm really disappointed that they underutilized Rinko Kikuchi, because she really is an amazing actress.
Well,
Have you guys seen Babel?
no.
I've seen her stuff in it.
Yeah, she was in Babel. She got nominated for an Oscar for that, and she's been in many a Japanese movie. There's one in particular called Hole in the Sky that came out around 2001, which is this whole thing about loss and love, and takes place at a truck stop in Japan. But it's an amazing movie, and she's amazing in it. And you know, it's kind of
Can
like
you really judge that?
yes.
Do you know Japanese well enough to know?
I've seen terrible Japanese performances.
I don't doubt you. I'm just wondering, as someone who doesn't just intrinsically know the nature of the dialect and the language, can you really detect the subtleties of a Japanese performance?
A movie like Hole in the Sky, it's not really a
If you watch enough stuff,
I suppose you could pick up like
it helps.
You can drift with it.
I've neurally hand shook many a Japanese.
Oh, yeah, we haven't talked about my other big problem with the movie is Ron Perlman just seemed bored out of it.
I liked him in it. I
Really?
didn't get that. I just think he was doing his nonchalant Ron Perlman thing.
Just bored.
That was
seemed bored.
I felt that came up again. Someone's like, Ron Perlman's just riffing it, and someone else was like, no, he's not. He's the best I've ever seen him in this movie. It's a weird.
See,
dichotomy.
I enjoyed him. I thought he was just doing his Ron Perlman shtick, and it was fun. And that part, okay, that part, because Ron Perlman plays a character who's into the black market
Of
because
kaiju.
kaiju organ trade. So that was like the one element of the movie where I thought they were having a lot of fun and it was cool. The idea that once the monsters die, all these guys go in and harvest the organs and sell them as like alternative medicines and shit, which is a really cool idea that they explore pretty well. And I was like,
I need housing inside.
It's like
structure.
I need more of that shit to make this interesting, because what I wanted was like a giant monster movie that you know is childish fun on the surface, but then goes into all this minutia and brings like a bigger intelligence to like how a world would actually be affected by giant monsters all over the place, you know?
So this is very much a simplistic movie, whereas Pan's Labyrinth was really like taking a child's fantasy world and then like putting it in a really dark, complex environment.
Situation
Yeah, see,
with lots of vaginal
I didn't
imagery.
like Pan's Labyrinth either.
See, I liked it. I didn't like it as much as most people did, because most people are like, "That's one of the best movies I've ever fucking seen. It's great. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen." I'm like, it's fine. I didn't dislike it. Solid B plus, A minus. But it's not. I wasn't blown away by it.
I mean, I was hit pretty hard by it. I've never seen anything like that before. I've never seen a movie that was like a little girl trying to cope with the evil reality around her, and then she
Gets killed in the end.
Yeah,
Spoiler
I
alert.
mean, it was very, very
That
cool.
guy caving in that dude's face with a Coke bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
So I mean, it's pretty awful. But like, I agree. This was an opportunity for him to bring something really interesting and new to a really like this. We haven't explored this genre.
See,
at all.
that's why I say that, like, if Edgar Wright directed this, like, look what he's done with Shaun of the Dead. You know, all the little minutia and like fun things he brought to the zombie genre that have never really been thought of before. But like they come from just saying, okay, here's a couple of these schlubby losers. What would happen if a zombie attack happened? Mm-hmm. He's like, well, first of all, they'd be just so tuned out they wouldn't notice it was happening.
Yeah.
You know, and he went from there and it like made this really funny but still like true to the genre, like lots of actual peril and shit, and had a lot of fun with it. And it didn't feel like Guillermo just made Top Gun with giant robots.
And then they put in set pieces that were just like placeholders. Like that's, I mean, unlike referencing it since we talked enough, like Man of Steel, where they just skipped over scenes where character development and arcs are necessary instead of like this movie had that, but it was just shit out. It's just sort of like, let's skip over that. Let's get through that real quick. Well, it has to be in for a structure. At least they had it.
Didn't
but it's just like scenes like the fucking he shows up in the same cliche scene where it's like, took a long time to find you. Like that, he actually says that. He just says that. Yeah. He's like, come to my office. He like sits there holding his dick. Idris Elba's like, God damn, you're the best goddamn pilot. Audience, trust me here. He is the best goddamn robot pilot. And he's like, I need you back. He's like, but why? I've never come back. He's like, you can either die here or you can die out there. He's like, all right. And that was it. Like, that's all. There's no struggle there. He just instantly switches over.
It felt like they gave Guillermo del Toro it felt like they gave him a structure. Like, here's your structure. Go. Like, you have to hit every single one of these plot points to make it.
Well, I mean, no, he's a good enough filmmaker to know he has to have them in there.
Yeah.
But he's also, like, I could either rush this, like if I rush this scene, get this out, then I can focus on these sweet shots here, keep this.
But then there was like stupid shit with the robots in and of themselves, like that one part where the flying kaiju like drag them into space, and they're like, use the sword and
yeah.
then take the sword and just basically cut it in half. Like, why haven't been using the fucking
And
sword
then they
this
do it
whole
again at the
time?
bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, it's like
one comes at him and they use the sword like
they're like, this is the biggest kaiju we've ever seen, and the sword just obliterates it. As soon as they start fighting, it's like it can only use one arm, and they kill it with the sword. Like, why didn't you just always have the sword out?
Here's the thing. Like, when we were talking about this, brings it back. When we were talking earlier about the more interesting movie was made 5 years before this, like was set 5 years before this.
Yeah.
That explanation comes from these guys are rock stars, and like nothing is more gets you more groupies and free drinks than pummeling a kaiju to death with your bare mitts. Like, there's no other reason they wouldn't pull out a fuck. Every single Jaeger had a special weapon, like the Typhoon, like graceful Typhoon. What was the name of the
Chinese one?
The Red Typhoon.
And the best thing about the Chinese, they were always playing basketball for some reason. They were like eating dinner, and they just had the basketball with them.
There's a lot of little nuance in this movie that I really love. But they had 3 saw blades the whole time.
And they just immediately got obliterated by not even a very powerful kaiju.
This movie did. I'll go to me because we've been on this for a while. I gave it a generous B+. I enjoyed it a lot. Even when we were walking out, I was like kind of shit talking it. But upon reflection, I'm like, that was pretty fucking fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. It is guilty. It is guilty of. It has a lot of characters they just kind of toss in and then completely don't even utilize. Like, the Russian dude didn't have a single fucking line.
Yeah, Zangief. He had, like, bleached blood. Yeah, see, like, his whole character was that he had weird hair.
Yeah.
The Chinese's whole character was that they had a basketball.
Yeah. Big surprise, I'm the set deck guy in Chancellor. This movie gets a higher score for me because I could imply a lot of the environment just from how well it was set decked and how it made sense to me and how they put the world together. Like Ron Perlman's, the fact that he had spurs on the whole fucking time on his goddamn ridiculous gold tip shoes. Like, I don't know. I like Charlie. I also, the caricatureness of every character in the movie had a character.
Well, yeah, I mean,
maybe
Charlie Day was Charlie Day. You know, he's playing.
But the other guy who was in a
that guy.
Crazy British
my
guy?
explanation for that guy is it seems like that character was pulled from a flashback scene in a Hellboy movie from the 20s.
Yeah,
and they put him into this movie. It's like, what the fuck? But that was what was more fun. Is like that guy's fucking off his rocker, but it's in a movie about giant robots fighting monsters. So why aren't we seeing more of that?
That's probably why I forgave Charlie Hunnam's character so much, because he's the big swinging dick protagonist.
I couldn't forgive him because he fucking sucked. He couldn't speak in an American dialect. Why couldn't he just play one of the Australians and just hire a goddamn American? I don't think Guillermo del Toro probably doesn't have a good enough ear for the English language.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of the problems come from.
I will agree with you there, but I will say that it was...
Fuck him! No! You will not give him any breaks.
No, I'm not giving him
That guy is terrible. I want him dead. I hope he dies in front of someone he loves.
Charlie Hunnam's gonna kick your face in, dude. He's
Whatever.
He's not. I don't think he's Australian either.
Grate my fucking face on your abs, you piece of shit. I don't care.
No, he's a soccer hooligan, bro. He'll kill you.
Go ahead.
No. Anyway,
I will fight him.
I will
fight him
and lose.
I will. Everyone was a caricature in this movie, so that didn't bother you as much.
Yeah, well, but he sucked.
The only guy who wasn't a caricature was Idris Elba. Interestingly, he was the only guy who brought like gravity to the situation. Like,
it's Lufa.
The fight scenes were fun. The kaijus were really well designed. Each one had their Shadow of the Colossus style superpower.
Yeah.
It was that I felt it was really rushed. The first 15 minutes were just like, oh, there's gigantic monsters. Oh wait, we've been fighting them for 10 years. Oh wait. Oh god, like
there always seems to be like one thing in a Guillermo del Toro movie that pisses me off.
Yeah.
Like in Hellboy 2 it was the goblin.
The batshit crazy
and then
bullshit.
the fucking goblin just comes out of dumbass nowhere.
Yeah, like,
and they're like, "What goblin? Do you want my shiny belt buckle?" Like, and they just barter it. Like, where's this coming from? Who knows what? Goblins exist now? What the fuck? And then like in this movie it was I just lost
This
it.
movie had a lot of was it mind merging or was it the drifting?
No, it was like one bit.
See, I would have much rather had
Keep
a lot.
going. I'll come back to it.
Here's the thing: that interesting concept where they're like, it takes 2 people to run a Jaeger. Like, okay, that's really cool if you can do it right. They didn't do it right.
Yeah, they didn't. No drama came from that.
I would have much rather had, instead of like the fake drama or the not existent drama of the people conflicting, like
Yeah.
the Jaeger, only half of it working and the other
Yeah.
half like being lame because they had a fight the night before, like something like that. None of that was going on, so fuck it. Get rid of that. Have each person have their own Jaeger and have like a 4-on-4 brawl with kaijus and like robots. Come on, man. Like they didn't. It was weak sauce because there was no drama inside of those cockpits at all.
Yeah,
it needed to have it. And why was there a gigantic like fan interface unit in the middle of their like cockpit? Remember, he almost fell into a gigantic spinning fan blade.
Yeah. Why is that right below them? Couldn't they build a little floor there?
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't they put like the nuclear reactor explosive device in the head with him? Or something?
Like don't get knocked off your pedestal or you get mulched in the skiers.
They also kept like using like their control pads were just massive buttons and shit. I'm like, why? They're hooked in with their mind. Why are they still have to physically press so many goddamn buttons?
And they were rocking, stocking, roboting the whole time, even though they had their own Gundam wing weapons. Like, this thing was riffing on Gundam Wing really hard. Like, every Gaiju had their own special thing. Like, this Gaiju has a pole arm, and this Jaeger has a fucking minigun. Like,
but then Charlie Day's like, but they're all like genetically identical. Guys,
I thought. Let's talk about that for a second. Spoiler alert. Turn it off. But you fuck you. Anyway, keep on. The thing where they're all coming at. This was Isaac's big rift.
Yeah, I wasn't. I thought
movie.
they explained the kaijus too much. I thought it was better.
There, that was the moment.
Okay, yeah.
It was.
We're like, it's an alien invasion.
They were like, they did this the first time with dinosaurs, and I went, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? Like 65 million years ago, they threw out dinosaurs. Like, I guess you think that. Like, if dinosaurs were their first things to go out, it's made up this. My whole mind just went. So they created brontosauruses, T-Rexes.
No, they created kaiju to kill them.
To kill the dinosaurs?
Yeah,
is that what he meant?
Yeah, he meant that the kaijus came out, killed the dinosaurs.
That's why the dinosaurs went extinct. It wasn't.
It's still stupid.
It wasn't a meteor.
But the atmosphere couldn't. The atmosphere wasn't.
It was too unpolluted.
Yeah,
they said for the kaiju
needed more carbon in it.
Yeah,
so they waited for
because okay, for people who don't know that the kaiju are controlled by these like Independence Day style aliens that are through a rift in a dimensional rift that's under the sea.
So they basically breed these gigantic monsters
to go exterminate the planet so that they can terraform it.
Just raises, they explained it too much, because then you start raising more questions. Like, if they can make a teleport portal, couldn't they just do that over cities and launch into space?
That's why. Okay.
Here's the big thing, and I agree with Isaac on this. In the old school Japanese, and this obviously draws from it because the end credits are like, big thanks to Ray Harryhausen and
Ishiro Honda, the director of the original Godzilla movie.
All those monsters back in the day were very lore. You know, I guess.
Well, I mean, Godzilla happened because of the nukes, nuclear testing,
and he always fought against either relic monsters or
there'd be like from a weird South Pacific island where there were people worshiping it or something.
Yeah. Like it had a very elemental feel. So these monsters, you think at the beginning these monsters have like an elemental aspect to them. Turns out they're just bioengineered from alien invaders, which is fine. It makes sense why there's so many of them.
They did that a few times in Godzilla movies. You know, your Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, for instance. Yeah.
Well, I just want to see the movie where the kaiju fight the dinosaurs, and the T-Rex is like, the main T-Rex is holding his dick, and he's like, goddamn, you're
the best goddamn T-Rex pilot.
He can't reach his dick. He's like, I'm not.
He's got his dick buckle up by his dinosaur.
He has to snake his Tyrannosaurus dick up to his tiny arm so he can hold it.
Meanwhile, the Brontosaurus is just licking his own dick. Just turns his head underneath it. I'm much better at this hero gig.
And they're like, all right, we got to build bigger dinosaurs to fight these dinosaurs.
So basically, fun movie could have been way better with a little wit. A little extra wit.
There wasn't a lot of
this felt saddled by its structure.
We needed to get the British in on this one.
Yeah.
More than they were.
I will say it did some cool things. I liked how the bad guy British dude ended up being like one of like the remembered heroes. Like that was
the Australian guy, you mean?
Yeah, they're like he's just.
I love that character.
He's just supposed to be a bully, like a big dick-headed bully.
I agree with him though, because he's like, you're a dick. Then you like killed your brother. You shouldn't be back here. I'm like, yeah.
And then it's like then you like convinced him to let Rinko Kikuchi be your co-pilot, and she almost blew up everyone.
Exactly. And he's like, I was right. And you're like, yes, you are. Like,
But he's like, shut up, I got my dick.
No, the only reason they got to pilot that thing is because, like, well, fuck. They let out an EMP and turned off all the digitalized Jaegers. He's like, we got a nuclear one. Who do we got left?
We got our analog Jaeger that still has lots of digital electronics.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So
I like how they go up on the roof and just shoot a flare at the guy. Dude, they're like, we're fucked. Let's do it, Mike. You're all in.
So not terrible. I still like Guillermo del Toro. I like the Hellboy movies a lot more than Adam 2.
I like the first Hellboy a lot.
I
don't like the Hellboy 2.
I like 2 also. I like the Clockwork Army. I thought that was really cool.
I like Hellboy 2 to the extent that I liked how it was presented, but the story made batshit no sense.
Yeah, I like that.
You can forgive stuff.
I like that Selma Blair and kittens.
What was
Lots
the
of kittens in those movies?
What was the character arc in that one? I forgot what the point was.
Well, she got Prager's with his Hellspawn because she was riding that Hellboy dick all night long.
All